Hello, welcome back to Shining a Light, and I'm your host, Jerry McCready. Today, we're going to be shining a spotlight on a friend, a person who I believe is really, really serious about her craft. And I would like to shine a spotlight on Jasmine Kazera today. Hi, Jasmine.
Hello, Miss Jerry.
How are you today?
I am fine. Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So, Jasmine, just share a little bit about your background with the viewers.
Okay.
Where were you? Were you born and raised here in Lancaster? Give me a little history about yourself.
Okay, no problem. Again, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
Think what you're doing here is great. When
Thank
you
you.
contacted me about shining a light on me, I was like, what? Oh,
Yes.
that's amazing. I really appreciate the opportunity.
You're welcome.
And love what you're doing here.
Thank you.
So yes, again, my name is Jasmine Kazera. I am born and raised right here in Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
I did spend some time in Philadelphia after I graduated undergrad. I got a job in Philadelphia and lived there for several years, maybe around 7 or 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
But right at the height of the pandemic, I did have my first and only child.
Okay.
And then found myself moving back home, which of course just made things easier as a single mother.
Right.
And I really have a strong support system within my family.
That's
here,
awesome.
rooted in
Yeah,
Lancaster,
yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
That I did find myself back home.
Okay.
And you know, it's always great to come home and have this home to come to.
Yes, yes.
So yes, I am local, and like I said, I am a single mother of a rambunctious, fun, very active 4-year-old,
Yeah.
a little boy named Amari, and I am a business owner of 2 businesses that I started.
Nice. And where did you go to school here in Lancaster? Where did you go to school and where did you graduate?
So in Lancaster, I was always in the school district of Lancaster.
Mm-hmm.
So I, all the way up, you know, I attended, actually my mom way back in the day was a preschool teacher. So my brother and I had the privilege of being in her preschool class. This was at the Lancaster Rec Center.
Okay.
We did that. Then I moved on to Hamilton Elementary and then
Okay.
Wheatland Middle School and then J.P. McCaskey High School. I know there's a lot of Red Tornado people out there for J.P. McCaskey High School. After that, I found myself at the first HBCU, Lincoln University is where I went for my undergraduate degree in biology. And it was after that, after I graduated college, that I then found a job in Philadelphia and spent some time there.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's very impressive, Jasmine.
Thank you.
So let's move on. What drove you into, let's work on the glasses first.
Okay.
Talk about the glasses. What drove you to get into designing these beautiful glasses?
Sure.
What was your inspiration?
All right, I can share that. So, and I'm glad you said that too, because I always, explain to people that I have 2 businesses.
Yeah.
Yes, they are all under me, kind of like one entity, but I do like to talk about them as 2 separate businesses.
Gotcha.
They're 2 different streams for me, 2 different streams of income, 2 different things I created, so I do treat them differently.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the glasses, bear with me, stick with me, because it is a story about how I got there.
All right. Okay.
So,
take your time.
It's funny how it started. The glass business started as, believe it or not, my love for travel. Okay. So bear with me. At an early age, one thing I appreciate many things about my parents, but one thing I really do appreciate about them is that they introduced my brother and I to travel at a very young age.
Awesome job, parents.
Yes. Thanks, Mom and Dad. My dad was born and raised in Jamaica.
Okay.
So one of our first trips out of the country was to Jamaica.
Okay.
And then we were a family of 4 in the early 90s. So when I say we used to travel, unfortunately we didn't go to like Italy or Africa or far away, maybe expensive places like that.
Right.
What I consider travel to this day is just going from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Literally.
It is travel.
It's travel.
Look at it.
It is travel. It's just getting out of your community, getting out of your neighborhood, finding something new to do, just gaining experiences.
Yes.
I've grown to appreciate experiences over material things.
Yes.
To this day, I don't need the newest bag. I don't need the newest shoe. I don't need the newest this or that. I like to explore and learn new things. So I always had this love for travel. I've always liked to write. So later in life, I said, you know what? I'm going to start a travel blog. So in 2018, when blogging was really popular online, I started to write about my travels. I used to teach people kind of like how to travel, how to do it inexpensively, show them that it's fun, it's easy, it's something that everyone can do. I gave tips and tricks on how to go. And my blog was called Traveling Through Life with a Wine Glass Half Full. And that was because I talked about travel in the positive perspective. Some people would travel and they would come back and say, oh, I had a horrible time. The resort was terrible. They didn't have a beach. And I'm like, hold on. You mean to tell me you didn't have to go to work? You didn't have any responsibilities. You were out of the country, but you still had a bad time? That doesn't make sense. So I would always say, if you're traveling, you have to have a good time. So I would talk about the positive perspective of it, hence Wine Glass Half Full. The blog did take off. People were attracted to it. I started getting people subscribing and really into it, asking questions. So I said, you know what, this could be profitable. Right? So I said, let me create something to go along with this. What better than wine glasses? A wine glass half full. So during the pandemic, like a lot of business blossomed during that time. So 2020 is when I took the wine glasses serious. I bought all the machinery that I needed. I really invested in myself. And started making the wine glasses. At that point in time, a lot of vendor events were becoming popular as, again, we were all kind of stuck at home and, you know, didn't have a lot to do. So I started making the wine glasses, and believe it or not, they took off on their own. So I separated the two. It just became a wine glass half full as its own business. So in a very roundabout way, the wine glasses kind of created their own business, and I was able to kind of separate the blog from the wine glasses, and they really took off on their own. I started by making wine glasses that reminded me of places I traveled. So I had a wine glass named Miss Jamaica that was full of Jamaica colors. Miss Aruba that was full of colors. Like kind of like when you create and you paint and you say that, you know, when you hear music, you see colors and, you know, things like that. When I travel, I would think of a new wine glass to make, or, oh, this reminds me of White Sands.
So you brought the two of them together.
I brought it all together. So all the wine glasses were travel inspired. But again, as it kind of took off in its own entity, I now create wine glasses that have like sports logos on them. Or I do, you know, I take requests, so business logos, or they really took off.
Do you do custom made work for people?
I do custom made work for people. I do explain on my website that is a little, you know, that's something on a case-by-case basis. If it's something I'm able to do, I'm happy to create it for you.
Nice. All right. Wow, that's awesome. And we always say traveling is knowledge. So there it is right there.
Exactly. I'm big on that. I'm really big on that. Traveling is definitely knowledge.
All right. Well, let's move on to the books.
Okay.
How did you get started into this, and why Amari? I'm looking at your titles. Where do you get your titles from? How do you generate the what goes on, you know, in your mind?
Good question. So yes, the books, again, something completely separate, but you will realize that travel has become the root of both businesses. So with the books, so as I kind of stated earlier, I've also liked to write. So that's why I started the blog. And it's funny because with my businesses, it's just like how everything came together. So I always liked to write. I always liked to travel. And then I had a son. And I said, you know what? None of this has to stop. I have a son now, and I am a single mother, but I don't have to stop traveling. He can come along. I don't have to stop writing. I could do something to incorporate both of us. So with that being said, I did go back to school to get a master's in creative writing and English. And I'm like, okay, now that I did this, let's take this writing thing serious, right? Let's not let this money go to waste. Because that happens.
It does go to waste, right?
It does. So once I did that and got really serious, it just kind of clicked to me one day, and it all made sense in what direction I wanted to take writing. And I said, children's books. I have a child of my own. Children's books, you know. Children's books, not only just generally, but about my son as the main character and about our travels as the topic. So that's kind of how that came about. Believe it or not, in my son's short 4 years, we've been plenty of places. I'm a little biased when it comes to traveling. With my dad being from Jamaica, I'm biased to the islands.
Oh, really?
I have like a little personal goal to visit every island, and I'm on my way there. So my son has visited Jamaica 3 times. We've been on a Caribbean cruise where he's got to experience a lot of islands.
That's awesome.
Him and I just got back from the Bahamas in June.
Okay.
So yeah, we've been quite a few places. So my goal is to write about each of those experiences, and of course add it in a non-fiction but fictional way where it can be a great story to tell. So what I did here, you asked about the titles.
Yes.
The first book is the ABCs of Travel. Because it was my first book and I was learning how to self-publish on my own, I did want to start with something that may have been a little simpler. So what I call this a low-content book.
Okay. Low-content
book, meaning there's not a ton of words in there. It is an alphabet book, but all the words, all the letters are related to travel.
Okay.
So A for airplane, B for beach, C for cruise, things like that. But what I really enjoy about this book is that even though it's an ABC book, it's good for a lot of ages, right? I really took time to find an illustrator. Number one, to get someone who can draw a picture that looks just like my son.
Yes, it does look like him.
If you saw my son, you go, wow. That was really important to me. So he looks just like my son. And secondly, the pictures, I like to say, are very vibrant. They're very fun. So you can show it to your newborn for the picture aspect. You can show it to your toddler to teach them about travel, the words there. Then you can show it to your 7 to 10-year-old for vocabulary.
Right.
So it's really good for all ages. So that's the first book, and we got that out the way. I learned how to self-publish, put it up on Amazon.
How was that journey?
That was interesting. It was easier than I thought in some ways, and harder than I thought in others, if that makes sense. I did go through Amazon to self-publish. So you can find my book on Amazon. I went through their Kindle Direct Publishing platform, and that was somewhat simple to use. So I was happy for that. I looked up all the things I needed in order to load my book on the site. But I also created my own website too. Some of that could be a little bit challenging, but you just kind of stick with it. I like to say I'm a member of YouTube University because I YouTube everything. Just the age that we live in now, I feel like if you really want to do something, there's so many resources out there to figure it out. It might take a while, but there's a lot of resources out there to figure it out. So I'm glad that I was able to figure out how to self-publish. The hard part, believe it or not, was finding an illustrator. That, I guess, is just preference. I looked and I looked and I searched because, like I said, it was important for me to get the character right, which is my son. Something near and dear to me, and he's the main character of what I call a series. It is the Amari on the Go series. So although the books have different titles, you will see it says Amari on the Go as a subtitle.
Is he aware of your featuring in his book? How does he respond?
I love that. So yes, so our first book, this book came out in 2022. At the time, he was 2. He was born at the height of the pandemic, 2020. So he was 2 at the time. And it was important for me to really kind of drill it into him that, hey, this is you. This is us that, we're doing this. He was a part of the unboxing with me when we first got, our first book. And I'm not sure how much he understood then. Now that he's 4, I will say that he fully understands.
Oh, wow.
And it's so cool, Miss Jerry. It is so cool. I love it so much. He says, we look at the books and he says, that's me. His little cousins who are close in age to him say, that's Amari. Everyone's well aware, and it's really cool to see. I love it.
Beautiful. That is just
and
so beautiful.
He gets the proceeds. He gets proceeds of the book. That was important to me. He is listed as a co-author. If it wasn't for him and what we're doing together, the books wouldn't exist.
So you think you got a little writer coming up too?
I hope so. We'll see. I hope so. Writer, travel, or something. So, either way, he's a part of it. So we'll see.
So what's next for you on your horizons?
So, what's next? I love creating. I love creating, and I hope to continue doing this. My goal was to put out one book a year at least to start. Hopefully I'm putting out plenty of books a year, or I can really grow it into something. So right now, we did this in 2022. Our second book, Amari Visits Jamaica, in 2023. And this year, 2024, I do hope to do a coloring book, kind of switch it up a little bit and introduce something new. We do luggage tags also. I don't have one on display here today, but again, just sticking with the travel theme and everything like that. So I plan to put out something once a year as it comes to the Mario on the Go books, at least. With the glasses, I plan to continue. I really enjoy attending like in-person events, even though I have websites for things and could sell online. It's really nice getting out there and seeing people face to face.
Yes, it's nothing like that.
Exactly. I know you've had that experience, and it's really cool, especially with the books. I meet children, I meet people, and some of the children say to me like, how did you become an author? I want to do that too. Or they just get intrigued by seeing, honestly, a young black boy on the cover of a book, and they have questions for me. And just to have those conversations in person has been really neat. So I plan to continue to do things like this. Put myself out there.
Gotcha.
I find myself loving to create so much that I can tend to just lock myself in a room and create, and I'm like, oh wait, no one's going to know I'm creating if I don't get out there and promote. So that is something I struggle with a little bit when it comes to promoting. So again, I thank you for this opportunity, but I hope to be doing a lot more of that, marketing and putting myself and my business out there a bit more.
How much time does this take away from your creative process? How much time does it take away from the rest of your family?
When I create, you mean like how much time do I put into that?
Yeah, like being in by yourself, because I know you have to go through that process, and sometimes we got to be by ourselves.
That's true.
To get that, that stuff flowing.
You're right. You're absolutely right. It does take time. I find myself now, especially that my son is older, and I'm a very hands-on mother and with him a lot and trying to find that balance. I do find myself trying to create a new schedule, maybe waking up early before him and getting in there and creating. I did create space for myself, like an office, a home office that I could just, again, stow away into and create, write, or come up with new designs. So I find myself now still finding that balance, like trying to get up earlier or go to sleep a little bit later, making sacrifices like that. I will also say that sometimes when I'm attending these events or vendor events, that's when my community and my help, my support system comes in very handy. Nice. Again, my parents who help with my son. That's a blessing to have that, because they're able to help me out there while I, try to continue with my business and kind of continue to create for my son and I. So to have the support system there and just kind of finding the balance between being present and working on my passion is something I'm still working on, but getting there.
And what words of advice would you give someone who is looking to be in a position like yours, who wants to write, who's looking to do classes or some sort of creative?
I hope my advice doesn't sound cliche, but I really say if you're looking to get into your own business or businesses like what I have here, something that's kind of like crafting or being an author, is honestly to just start. For both businesses, I sat on them for so long. I let fear get in the way. I let, just a lot of thoughts that shouldn't have been there get in the way. Well, what if it doesn't work? Well, how am I going to do this? Or how do I... Once I started and I finally figured out how to do a website, I finally got that first sale. I'm like, oh, why didn't I do this so long ago? So my biggest piece of advice would literally just to jump in, just start. It might not be right at first. You might not know what you're doing at first, but I'm still figuring it out. With one business starting in 2020 and the other in 2022. Now in 2024, I'm still figuring it out. So, and things are going to tweak and change along the way. My honest piece of advice would be to just start.
Just start. There you have it. Just start.
There you go.
Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Jasmine.
Of course.
It was wonderful having you. Stay tuned for the next Shining Your Light. See who we're going to be spotlighting on again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Right about almost.